Good morning, John Wertz here, December 10th, 10 a.m. We're here to interview Billy Masden, and he's running for JP Court of Precinct 5 in Montgomery County. With me is Bob Bagley, Lana Horde, Kendra Yamaguchi, and Larry Rogers. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you.
As we discussed earlier, feel free to take up to 5 minutes in your opening, and then we'll start the Q&A.
Okay. My name is Billy Masden, running for Justice of the Peace, Precinct 5 of Montgomery County. I lifelong resident of Montgomery County, moved to Magnolia when I was 4 years old, 1966. There was only two school buildings in Magnolia at the time. The high school and elementary shared a building, and the junior high was on Buddy Riley Boulevard, and that was it. Miss Gullo was my second grade teacher. I had a relationship with her ever since I was 7 years old. Just a phenomenal lady, a phenomenal family. Just became my second mom, and I was still getting over her passing, because she was such an influence in my life.
So she just passed. I know
Mr. Gullo passed away on Father's Day a year ago.
Yeah.
Miss Gullo passed away July 14th, the day before her birthday, which happens to be the same day as my son's birthday. So her birthday and my son's birthday the same day, and we buried her on her birthday. Just a phenomenal family. Like I said, lifelong resident, graduated Magnolia in 1981. Never attended college. Well, I say I never attended college. I tried college. It just wasn't my thing. As much as I loved high school and elementary and all that, out of 12 years, I think I had 10 perfect attendance. I loved school, but I didn't have any desire to go to college. And back then it was just graduate, either go to college or go to work. I chose work. So I worked at Klein's grocery store for a little while. Then I went to Tomball Feed. And then I went to Multiflex Engineering, which was a oil company. And from there, while I was working there, I went to the police academy at night. So graduated the police academy. Joe Corley hired me in 1989. And ironically, I was a bailiff. My first job was a bailiff for Judge Suzanne Stovall, County Court at Law Number 1. Did that for 2 years. Precinct 5 offered me a job over there, close to home, obviously. So I've been at Precinct 5 ever since. I have 37 years of law enforcement experience. 35 of those have all been in Precinct 5. And when I got hired on at Precinct 5, I was on the street, but I was also Judge Cox's bailiff for several years until the current JP ran, and he won. And through conflict of interest, I did not want to be the bailiff of that court. So, I thought it was just best to have somebody else do those duties. So I started out as a deputy. I worked my way up I went from deputy to corporal, to sergeant, to lieutenant, and retired as a captain. After 30 years. That lasted about a year. So Constable Jones offered me a job as a SRO at Lyon Elementary, and a school resource officer. And I've been at Lyon Elementary now for the last 5 to 6 years. It's really opened my eyes on the education part of it. About like most of the public, didn't realize how difficult teachers have it. I thought, like everybody else, 8 to 4, summers off. Far from the truth. These teachers work their tails off and deal with these kids and everything, and it's sun up to sundown, weekends. Became like a father figure and a role model to a lot of these kids, because a lot of these children, are being raised by aunts, uncles, grandparents, and if we can show them that law enforcement, if we can show them at an early age that law enforcement is their friend and not their enemy, you know, because a lot of them, their families and everything, they have dealt with a negative experience with law enforcement. And I want to be that change to these kids, you know, to where they can come to me and not to be scared or afraid. They can come to me with any concerns that they may have.
In the JP court.
JP, yes.
Yeah. Okay. All righty. Thanks for that
Yes, sir.
overview. So, in the first question, why are you seeking this bench, and what are your three primary goals do you hope to accomplish? And you said to establish a night court. Is there not one there now?
No, there's not.
Okay. Is there a backlog to justify that?
Well, the way I look at it, I mean, the justice courts are the busiest courts in the state of Texas. 90% of the Texans will be in a JP court, either through a citation they may have received, small claims lawsuit that someone may file on them, any kind of Class C offense will be in front of a JP court. And you think about the amount of small claim lawsuits there are, you know, that's that's a busy court. And with the growth in Magnolia and Montgomery County, the way I look at it is Montgomery County and Magnolia is blue collar. These ladies and gentlemen, they work a lot. I would like to establish a night court to where they don't have to take off a whole day of work to come sit in court. I'd rather them maybe take off an hour or two, show up at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the evening, and not miss a day of work, you know? So it's more of a convenience for my constituents and the people of not only Precinct 5, but of Montgomery County.
Okay.
Can I follow up on that?
Yep.
Do you have a plan to put something like that in place? Like how it would be funded, staffed?
It's going to be funded just like it is now. You would just have to adjust the schedule of the clerk to be there. You know, he or she may, instead of coming in at 8 o'clock, would come in at maybe at noon. You know, and work noon to 8 instead of now. Is it going to be every day? No, maybe once a week, and I could alternate that throughout the clerks, depending on if it's a traffic court, if it's a small claims court, you know, because JP courts, they're in charge of all the filing. County courts have the county clerk, district courts have the district clerk. JP courts, their clerks are responsible for all of it, the dockets, the filing, and everything. So I think it would be unfair for one clerk to work 12 to 8 all the time, you know. So if it's a traffic, let's say if it's a jury trial, I would have that clerk that's in charge of traffic citations and the input of that data work that evening. If it's a small claims, I would have that civil clerk work that evening.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to go on with that one too, because I've already written it down, but, so you're not gonna have just the clerk to worry about, you're gonna have to have a bailiff there as
Correct.
well. So it's gonna be a total change in hours,
Mhm.
completely. So the current hours right now, how do they work? Are they Monday through Friday?
Monday through Friday,
Um,
8 to 4:30, I believe.
every day, everybody?
Monday through Friday.
Okay, so there's nobody on a split thing where they have four
Correct.
tens and
This would be something different.
what are they right now?
8 to 4:30, I
8 to
believe.
4:30.
Yes.
Okay, so would you be looking at changing it so that it's the 4 days of the week are 10-hour days?
No,
Or,
sir. I don't.
9 hours or whatever.
No, I'm going to stick with 5 days a week. I think it's better and more flexible for the residents of that community. You know, to try to. It's the way I look at it. It's not my court. It's their court. It's the people's court. I have to make it accountable to them. You know, I'm a, if so privileged, I'm there to occupy a chair. and to enforce the law equally and fairly, you know. But I also want to make it easier for those people. It's bad enough that they have to take off a day of work. Nobody wants to go to court. It's not a pleasant experience. So let's try to make it a little bit more pleasant for them. Maybe take a little bit of the burden off to where they don't have to get a babysitter or they don't have to make a whole day of work. You know, it's going to be a work in progress. It's going to be something new, but I think it's something that can be readily done.
Well, I was under the impression that some of the courts stay open longer, a couple of hours after normal closing, so that people can.
I don't know about the other courts. I don't know, like, I don't know what Wayne Mack does, and I don't know what James.
So right now the
Judge.
court is
It's
regular hours.
yes,
4:30.
yes.
All right, thanks.
So, I wanted to bring out the fact that your brother has been doing this job for quite a while, so you've been watching what he's doing. In context to that, two questions, a little bit of what he said. What does he think about the idea about doing night court? Does he think it's feasible? Like he sees a path forward that you can
I haven't brought it
switch?
up to him.
Oh, okay, no
we
worries.
we the way I look at it,
Yeah, I
we
like it. So
we have the same name.
right,
We are not the same people.
got it. Yeah, no,
You
I
know,
get it. I get
he
it. I
has
like
his
the idea.
ideals. I'm
Yeah.
going to bring my ideals.
Absolutely, yeah. The other question was, and this is a little bit more the original question I had. I just added that on when I thought about
Okay.
it. I just wondered if you had polled him and asked him what he thought. But anyway,
No, ma'am.
the after watching him all these years, where do you see the room for improvement? I see you're talking about expanding the court hours, which is good to make it more accessible. Is there any other area you see as a room for improvement that you think you can bring something better to the table?
From what I hear from the community,
Uh-huh.
he's done a really good job. I separate myself from my brother
Sure.
because I don't want. I tried to distance myself from that good old boy stuff. You know, Matt Masden is my brother, and I love him. And he's been a great big brother. And from my understanding, he's been a great JP. We don't talk business, to be honest with you. I want to establish my court. He established his court differently than Judge Cox did. I want to do the same. Where what I want to do also is that I want to get a full-time bailiff. At the time now, his bailiffs come from Precinct 5. It may be this person, or maybe that person, or maybe this person. They kind of alternate from my understanding. I want somebody in that court that knows me, knows the system, that can read me without me having to say something to him or her.
Having done the job, you know how important it is.
I know when I was a bailiff for Judge Cox and Judge Stovall, I knew what I needed to do just by looking at them. The non-communication, the non-verbal communication. I knew when to step. I knew when to step in. I would like to have a full-time bailiff as well. One, to keep consistency in that court. He or she knows when to step in. You know, I want to feel comfortable with that person. And also, I don't know how many Class C warrants are in that court. I'm assuming there's quite a few. On the days we're not having court, I want him or her to go out there and clear up those Class C warrants.
Explain what that is.
It's a traffic citation. Whether, say, Mr. John here gets a traffic ticket and he doesn't pay it, it turns into a warrant. You know, I get that the jails are overcrowded, and I get that, you know, they may be arrested and released, and that's fine. But it doesn't mean that they shouldn't be held accountable for that offense. If you get a citation, you need to pay that citation. You know, and so I would like to have that done as well. I want a full-time bailiff to start clearing up those. You know, do I know the number of them out? I don't. I'm assuming there's going to be quite a bit just because of the jail overcrowding. But you know, they have to pay their fine one way or the other.
How many cells are there in the jail? How many is that hold?
I don't.
Is
I
it
don't.
full?
They have a holding facility in Magnolia. It's a new annex that Commissioner Riley and Sheriff Henderson at the time got done, because at that time West County was the only part of the county that did not have a holding facility. So, and we are the furthest from Conroe. So if somebody arrested somebody at Nickel Sawmill and Robert Cemetery, which is Waller County line, by the time he or she arrested him and drove them all the way to Conroe, did the paperwork, and drive all the way back, in today's time, you're looking at 3 hours, 3.5 hours with a deputy off of the street just on a warrant service or an arrest. Now they can bring that person straight to Magnolia. It cuts a lot of time out.
Since Texas law does not legally recognize squatters' rights in the way other states do, how would you ensure the eviction and writ of possession process and it being handled quickly and correctly when someone occupies property without a lawful lease or claim?
They're going to have to, if that's not their property, and if that landlord has proper paperwork, he or she presents it to me, they're going to have to vacate. It's not fair to that landlord to have somebody just sit in their property while he or she could be renting that out to somebody, because that's part of their income. Basically, they're stealing money from them, and I've had to deal with that as a deputy when I was on patrol, and it's unfortunate, and I'm glad it's changing.
Good.
I'm glad it's changing. So it's going to be enforced.
Good.
It's not the landlord's fault that that person is squatting on their property. It's just not right.
That's good.
In Precinct 5, is there any way of knowing how much is civil and how much is criminal? Is it about equal or?
I don't have those numbers yet. With the growth, I know that there's small claims. Is you deal with a lot of small claims. I'm assuming there's going to be more criminal, because there's probably more traffic stops being made every day than somebody filing a small claim suit. One deputy could write 10 to 15 tickets in one day. That's just one. So if you multiply that by the sheriff's department, the constable's office, DPS, all the other agencies that might file in that court, that's a lot of criminal. And a traffic citation, even though it's a Class C, it is a criminal offense, where that's, and then you add the Class C assaults, public intoxications, disorderly conducts. That's a lot of Class Cs.
Yeah.
And I would assume that the criminal aspect of it has a higher volume than the civil.
Okay, thank you.
When we talked, we asked about tax and case. And is there anything should have been handled differently? You replied that it was inappropriate and possibly illegal outreach of the law.
Yeah,
Can you kind of explain that?
To me, it was a lot of, from what I know, I absolutely don't know all the ongoings and outgoings of that case. Basically, like anybody else, what you know is what you see on TV. You take that at face value. What went on behind doors, who knows? To me, it was a lot of, based on what I saw on TV, it's a lot of political stuff, to put it mildly. Stuff. And to me, it was a bunch of infighting. Um, is is anybody perfect? No. Does it mean they're a criminal? No. You know, so I kind of it appeared to be a little bit of an overreach again, based what I saw on TV. You know, I I certainly don't know all the all the ingoings and outgoings of that, but based on what I saw, it seemed to be inappropriate and a little bit of an overreach.
The witch hunt.
Based on what I saw, yeah, you know, how politics are. Today's allies, tomorrow's enemy. You know,
So going back to the bailiff issue, and having one assigned to the court, have you discussed that with the constable?
I have not.
Have you
I'm not.
discussed anything with him about
No,
you getting into that office?
and I'll tell you why, Mr. Bagley. I want to win first. I can have all these grand ideals and everything, but if I don't win, then it doesn't make a difference. Um, the election is in March, so March 3rd, I wouldn't take office until January. So that gives me 8 months to 9 months to visit with the constable, to visit with the commissioners and tell them what my ideals are, but I haven't discussed it with the commissioner or with the constable yet.
Okay, so they won't have a clue what you're going to do when you get into office and what direction you may go. So to go along with that, the question was, how are people going to be able to decide to elect you? And you put down some great information, but how do they find out? Because they may need to know about your integrity or your history.
Myself,
but how are you getting that? How are you getting the word out there for people to know? And the same thing happens with those that are elected, whether they're going to be able to come alongside
Sure.
you or not.
Candidate forums is one way. Showing up at the Republican meetings, telling them who I am, what I'm about, the meet and greets that I've had at homeowners associations, uh, people organizations that I've sponsored. Like for instance, I donated to a organization called Joyride. They help through equine rehabilitation for PTSD, kids with autism and everything. And I just happened to meet this lady in High Meadow. She goes, come over and visit, and they wanted to know about me. And so I told them exactly who I am. My message is, I'd rather you dislike me for who I am than like me for who I'm not. I'm not going to lie to you. You may not like what I have to say, but I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to tell you Billy Masden's opinion on that, because what I tell you today, 3 months from now, I'm going to tell you the same thing. So it's about integrity. It's about honesty. And as you see it, I see it. People change when they get elected. I'm here to tell each and every one of you, I'm not changing. Billy Masden is who Billy Masden is. I am not. I work because I want to work, not because I have to work. And I don't mean that arrogantly. I enjoy serving. I tell people, if I win, I may be one term, but I can look at myself. I tell people, two things will never lie to you, Bob: the Bible and the mirror. When I look at myself in the mirror, am I happy with who I see?
When you say you don't you don't have to work or you retirement, age for the county at this point?
I've
now?
already retired once.
So you retired, basically, this is just come back to service.
I love to work. I like to work. I don't know anything but really public service. I'm 62 or 63 years of age. I've done this for 37 years, over half of my life. I'm not trying to say, well, I'm going to work for 50 years. It's not me. I'm going to work until I'm ready to retire. And right now I'm not ready to retire.
I've seen you at just about all the meetings I go to.
Yes, ma'am.
We all seem to be at the same conservative groups. You talked about 3 that you've been a member of already, not just showing up for election time, but you've been there. And then you also have said something a number of times that I had to laugh about. You've said, Matt has tried to convince me not to do this, and he thinks I'm absolutely insane.
Right.
So talk a little bit about that too. So.
Yes. I admire my brother a lot. Even when I was a kid, when my brother was older than me, I thought, man, he's such a good brother. He was always popular and a big football player and all this, and then became elected and everything. And and the deal is, I think, is that he's told me, he goes, Billy, you're going to have to make some people mad. You're going to lose some friendships, because if Mr. Bob sues Mr. John,
Yeah.
I have 2 friends in front of me. One of them, it isn't going to be happy with me, And he said that's very, very difficult. That's some of the most difficult decisions he's had to make. There are 2 people, and with me being in Magnolia my whole life, I know a lot of people. And there's not a doubt somebody's going to come in front of me to where I know plaintiff and defendant. And I'm going to have to make that decision, And
You wouldn't recuse yourself?
not if they're friends. Not if they're friends. I mean, I have a lot of friends. I wouldn't recuse myself from y'all. I know both of you, but I'm not tied to you. I would recuse myself from, let's say, somebody from the Gullo family. I would have to recuse myself from that. I am too close to the Gullo family to hear that case. And I'll just use that as an example. There will be some that I will recuse myself from, just because I think it's the right thing to do. I don't want any kind of inappropriate, maybe that's a not their appropriate term, but I don't want there to be any sense of corruption, so to speak. Oh, the reason, you did that is because you've known them for whatever. I'm not going to do that.
Let me follow on to that. If you do recuse yourself, where does that go?
I can get
Does it go
any,
to another
a
JP?
visiting judge comes in
Okay.
and here's the case. He or she will have the file in front of them. I will not have any input. I would say, Judge Mack, can you come hear this case? Because this is the reason why. The file is with the clerk. Review the file. You make your decision. I'm out of it. Okay.
Who's that? I'm sorry. Kendra.
Do you support using online courtrooms?
I don't. Well, and I'll tell you why. I'm 100% honest. I can't stand computers. I've never had a Zoom meeting. I don't want somebody to judge me through a screen. They always say communication is nonverbal. I want to see somebody face to face, and I want them to see me face to face. I want to look in their eyes, and I want them to see me in my eyes on who I am.
Yeah, that's why we're That's why
Yes.
That's right. It's exactly why you're here.
Yeah.
Good.
And I'll be honest, if you said, hey, Billy, we're going to do a Zoom,
It's good.
I'm not sure if I wanted to do that. I want you to know who I am.
Yep. All right.
Larry?
One of our questions was, are the United States and Texas Constitution living documents? Please answer in context of progressivism versus originalism. And you're answering, I believe, in the original intent of the Constitution and laws. Can you go into that a little deeper?
Not really. I'll be honest with you. I mean, the Texas Constitution, U.S. Constitution, it is what it is. Whether we agree with it or not, we have to live by it, you know? And that's really, it's not a whole lot of a JP issue. I think it's more of a legislative issue. Um, I, Billy Masden believes in the Constitution. Whether anybody else agrees with it or disagrees with it, that's their opinion. Billy Masden believes in the U.S. and the Texas Constitution. It's just black and white to me. To me, there's not a gray area in that.
Okay. Let's see. So there's another question. What area of criminal justice needs the most urgent reform? What have you done to promote reform? You said improving policing.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, holding people accountable. What does that mean, improving policing as it pertains to Precinct 5?
I think improving policing is being more community oriented. I think the media has diminished law enforcement. Law enforcement is just like any other occupation. You're going to have bad apples. You're going to have bad doctors, bad teachers, bad politicians, bad plumbers, bad mechanics, but it seems to be magnified when it's a public servant, you know. For instance, me as a SRO, school resource officers, I want them kids to know the good side of policing. It's not what you see all the time on TV. All that stuff is edited, you know. This is real life. I want them to know the consequences, what can happen if they mess up. And especially at the age of 10, a lot of people don't realize at the age of 10, you can be charged with a crime, you know? And a lot of these parents don't realize that. And a lot of these children don't realize that. And once you sit down and you visit with them and you tell them the consequences and educate them on what could happen, I think that it educates the public as well. And I think when you improve policing, it's more than somebody wearing a badge and a gun and enforcing the law. You know, it's about if I stop somebody for a traffic ticket, it doesn't mean I have to chew their butt out for whatever he or she did wrong. I can write them a citation and be as friendly, as nice to them as possible. Why pour salt in the wound, so to speak? Why be a jerk and issue them a citation? You don't have to be that way, you know?
Let me follow on to that. So let's say, excuse me, at 10 years old, you can be arrested, say for shoplifting. If you're 9, what happens?
Nothing. Unfortunately, at 9 years of age,
They don't go like a juvenile court or, okay.
no.
But 10, they can be arrested, then they go to.
Depending on the severity of it, you know.
They
I
can-
don't know if anybody's going to arrest a 10-year-old for shoplifting. Now, if a 10-year-old brings a gun to school or commits some kind of violent act, yeah, for sure. You know, if a 10-year-old steals a candy bar or something, I doubt if, you know, he or she's going to be.
I just want to expand on that. Do you support restorative approaches or stricter penalties for juvenile related cases?
Depending on the severity of it, sure. You know, at that, not only that, you have to look at the parents.
So would you believe in, like, and I don't know the law, but parental responsibility, how parents, or our parents have some kind of responsibility in that now?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, normally it's not a JP case. It's not going to be, those kind of crimes will not be in
Okay.
JP court. The JP court only handles Class Cs.
Okay.
An example, if I grab his hand and squeeze it,
He likes
he, it's called an unwanted touch. He could file on me, and
Oh, okay.
it's a Class C. It's because if he felt a little bit of pain, hey, Billy grabbed my wrist, I didn't like it. If he wanted to file, that could be a Class C assault. Now, if I punched him in the face, that would be a Class A assault. That would not be in my court.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Oh, that's good. Good to clarify that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So there are certain levels that you.
Class C only. Class C only, and anything other than a Class C will either go to the county court, Class B, Class A, or the district court, which is all felonies.
That's great to let the people listening know, because I don't think the majority of people realize that's important. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Some JPs perform weddings. Is that something you'll be doing?
No.
Is there a reason?
Yes.
Okay.
Can we hear that reason?
Are you asking?
Yes.
Okay. Just like I told you, I gave you the example a while ago. Two things will never lie to you. It's the Bible and the mirror. If I perform a wedding with David and Larry, I have to perform a wedding with Billy and Sally. If I refuse that, then I can get filed on for discrimination. So the simple way for me not to be filed on is not to do any of them. I have friends that live on the other side. Good people, really nice people. I cannot do that. I would disappoint my mom and dad to, I can't, and I won't.
You alluded to the growth that's happened in Magnolia. I've watched it. I've seen it used to take me 15 minutes to get somewhere on 14.8. Now it takes me 45. Some days you can't even predict it. It's so crazy.
Right.
And so I love what you're talking about the annex having a place so that you don't have to have a deputy making that round trip every time. Deal with two things that are a little bit different in this answer, because we're almost about to close.
Okay.
And I won't get another chance to ask
Okay.
both questions, but they're a little bit different. One of them is, nobody knows what this growth's going to do to the court's volume. And have you thought through a way that you can be agile enough to deal with that? It sounds like you have, in planning for a full-time bailiff and planning for some night court. But how are you planning on dealing with that if that does turn out to be a bigger challenge than everybody thinks it will be, because this growth's going so fast? And then two, your years in law enforcement, you pointed out, the logistics of getting a prisoner to that jail and back is a 3-hour thing, because you know what has to happen in the paperwork and you know the steps that have to be done as someone who's done them. So can you think of any other ways that the fact that you have been in law enforcement for so long is going to impact the way you run that court to the good?
Well, I mean, there's only so many hours in a week. Obviously, I am known for my work ethic. I am known to overwork. Somebody has made the comment that they have seen me during this race. Okay. And they have made the comment, well, he's going to burn out, and then we will take it to the finish line. This person that he was talking to says, do you even know Billy? I will not be outworked. My work ethic, my dad taught me, my mom gave me love and comfort and fixing my bobos and everything. My dad taught me responsibility. My dad taught me work. You know, you take care of your needs. You worry about your wants later. I will not be out work. If I have to work on a Saturday, I don't have a problem with that. I don't care. It's about the people. It's not about me. It's about getting in there and getting cases done. The people that are filing those cases, they don't want to wait a year to hear it. They don't want to wait 6 months to hear it. If they file a case, they want to hear that case. And I'm going to do everything I can to bring that case in front of me as speedy as I can, as quick as I can. That's my belief. Will it happen? Won't know until I get in there. But I can tell you, the people that are going to be working for me, they're going to know my standards, and my standards are very high. So I'm going to work. I am not always a Monday through Friday and take off a half a day on Friday. That's not what I'm being paid for. You know, I'm being paid for at least 40 hours a week. And I can guarantee you and everybody else in that area, they're going to get a 40-hour-a-week judge.
We have about 10 minutes left.
Let's talk about transparency. How we ensure the JP office uses tax funds responsibly and transparently.
Ask me. I have nothing to hide. Anybody wants to come do it after I take office? Anybody wants to come do an audit? Please do it. I have nothing to hide. I'm going to be as transparent as anybody that you've ever met. The good thing about transparency is that if there is something wrong, I want to fix it. And you can't do that without transparency.
Right. Do you know the current situation of the court that you would be going
Situation being,
financially?
I don't
Okay,
know how much they take in.
Mhm.
Like you say, I distance myself from that.
Okay.
I want to be my own person. When I get in there, I want to find out for myself, you know, and not take anybody else's word for it.
Okay. Thank you.
You made it very clear that you're available 24/7, basically. Do you have any children?
I have one. I have a 30-year-old son. Very proud, very blessed. Almost getting emotional talking about him. He made parenting very easy. I never received a phone call late at night, not one time. Hey, Dad, kind of messed up. Hey, Dad, can you come get me? Never. He just became a deacon of his church. At 4 years old, he wants to go to the University of Texas. Why? I don't know. Maybe because I was a Texas fan. I have no idea. He fulfilled that dream. He graduated from the University of Texas. And I told him, I said, you need to realize that you are in a very small percentage of somebody that lived their dream. You know, at 4 years old, I got a picture of him, and that's where he wanted to go. He is a physician assistant, works for a urgent care. He pretty much runs that urgent care in Austin. He lives in Austin, but he is very red, very conservative. I'm very blessed. I'm blessed to have such a great man. He got saved. I seen a 19-year-old young man, good young man, get saved at 19, and at 30, he's a great man. I wished that I was as much of a Christian and as much of a man as he was or he is at that age. I'm very blessed and very proud.
you talked a little bit about, you get a little bit of juvie, right? Like if it's class C, you do have
Mhm.
some juvenile.
Mhm.
So what do you do with juvies? What do you plan to do? We've talked to some JP courts who had some good ideas about this, and
Obviously, community service.
yeah, and
Obviously,
to try to make sure they don't come back again.
for sure.
And but
Explain to them
yeah,
the consequences. I received a phone call the other day, actually, from my ex-boss's wife, Constable Hill's wife, called me and said, "Hey, are you available? I've got these kids stopped and they were tearing stuff up." And I remember when David was in office, anytime a parent would bring a kid in, you would always talk to them. I was always the guy that would speak to them in a fatherly fashion and not be so kind about it, but very abrasive. Says, "Listen, I'm not your mom, not your dad. Don't love you. I'm going to tell you the consequences. And this is where you're heading." So if you can relay that to them, and because mom and dad can tell them one thing, but if somebody else tells them the same thing, it's gonna sink in a little bit more. Um, I believe in we one thing we hadn't touched on, but I wanted to, is keeping these kids in school. We have to hold these parents accountable by keeping these kids in school. You cannot, if a child comes in front of me with truancy, you can't fine them. You can only fine the child $50. If the parent gets a citation for a non-compliance of attendance, that's different. You can fine the parent. And I think if you hit some parents in the pocketbook by keeping those kids in school, it's going to make an impression. So a lot of juveniles will come through, and I'm the kind of guy, I'm not going to forget where I came from. Did I speed as a kid? Sure I did. You know, just because you get a speeding ticket doesn't mean you're Bonnie and Clyde. You made a mistake. Now, if you keep coming to me, things are going to be different.
So I want to tag onto that one. You had, one of the questions was, to what extent do you believe the state or federal government should be able to obtain court orders directing parents to do things for their children? And you said parents know better than the government what is best for their children. So along those lines with truancy, if the parent really doesn't care, then it's kind of contradicting what
Well, there's
the thoughts
a
are. I
difference
mean, that's still the government telling what the children have to do. And
because that's the law.
again,
They have to attend school.
that's the government telling people what they have to do.
Okay.
It's just like we were under law telling the people that we had to have masks on. Not law, but directives
Sure.
telling us that we had to do that. And parents weren't allowed to take masks off of their kids and attend school. If they didn't go to school, then they get in trouble too.
There's the letter of the law. There's the spirit of the law. The law says you got to do 55 miles an hour. Are you breaking the law by doing 56 or 57?
Sure.
Yeah. Can I write you a citation for it? Sure. Am I going to? No. So letter of law, spirit of law. And I think when you have a child nowadays that misses 20, 30, 40 days of school, you know, that somebody has to step in, because obviously they're not being a parent. They're being a friend. Somebody has to step in and not so much punish the parent. You have to help that child and tell that child, hey, if you don't go to school, these are the percentages. Without a high school education, you're 70%, you have a 70% more chance likely of going to prison. If you don't have a trade to fall back on, and if you don't have an education to get you that trade, your future is very, very bleak. And I use 70% just as an example.
You have some kids that are never going to be able to adapt in school, and when you put them in
Sure.
school and they don't want to be there, then they become a discipline problem too. So I mean, it's a it's not a fine line, but there is a line there that,
If somebody has a better idea, I'm always open for it. I don't know what a 10 or 11-year-old, 9-year-old has to do. You know, I mean, there's going to be things you're not going to want to do, but going to school is just going to have to be one of them. You know, when you turn 18, you can do what you want to do. You know, but it's just, you know, those are one of those issues that's going to have to be enforced.
All right, we're at the point now, and take up to 5 minutes to close.
Good.
And we'll wrap it up.
I hope that I was as honest as I hope you saw my honesty. I hope you see that I'm not a politician, guys. I'm not. I am Billy Masden, and I'm running for a political office. I get that. But I'm not going to tell you something today and change my story a month from now. I am who I am. And like I said earlier, like me or dislike me for who I am, but I am who I am. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to hurt your feelings with the truth rather than a lie. That's just me. You know, what you see is what you get. And that's about it.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Do you have a campaign website?
Yes, campaign website is this. Here's my card. It's on Facebook, Billy Masden. I have a personal page, Billy Masden, and I also have a campaign page, Billy Masden for Justice of the Peace, Precinct 5. You know, I have a business card or a campaign card here. I got a QR code on the back. My phone number's on there. My email's on there. I sleep with my phone next to my nightstand. My phone, if it rings, I answer it. I don't look at it and put it down unless I'm in something like this. Of course, I wouldn't answer it, but I'm going to be available as much as I can be available. God willing, I get elected. There is like 80-hour course I will have to take, and then 20 hours every year after that. But for the most part, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be one of your working judges, and you're going to get every bit out of me that you can get. You're going to get your money's worth. I can promise you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for
You're
coming
welcome.
in, and good luck in your campaign.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Done?